Good morning, everybody. It's another Friday. We're back after a week off, and we are thrilled to have Principal Jason Stipp with us. Jason is the principal at Waubonsie Valley High School, which is in Aurora. And if you are not already following him on Twitter, please make sure that you do so. He is at WVHS and then capital S Stipp, STI with two P's, PP. Jason, how are you doing this morning, sir?
Hey, doing great. We have a couple of days here before spring break for us. So all's good now. This is like a walk in the park, I say. Anybody can do these 2 days. Hopefully I'm correct in saying that. But yeah, so everyone's feeling it here.
That's great, Jason. Great to hear that. You and I were talking, and Casey, we were talking a little bit off camera or before we started recording here about what spring's been like here now in 2022. We're now 2 full years removed from that initial shutdown, and maybe things are getting back to normal. It sounds like a little bit for you, Jason, which is fantastic news. At the same time, I know you guys are kind of talking about things that are sticky right now, things that are sticking for you guys, both at your building and in the district, perhaps instructionally, and how you guys are operating. So Jason, we'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, this has been an interesting time because what we're doing is we still had to kind of plan for like our school improvement initiatives, but we're still living in the fog of the pandemic and some of the limitations. So I would say the last 3 or 4 weeks have felt the most normal. A good example was 2 weeks ago, I came back to my desk and I was completely like overwhelmed in a good way for the first time. Before it was so much paralysis, but I was like, I've got all this stuff we need to do, which felt very normal to the position I've been doing for the last 10 years. So with that, good timing to do this. We just finished our instructional leadership team meeting and we're preparing for School Improvement Day in April. And we've taken the tasks of a few things this year. We've wanted to try to focus on essential assignments as a building. What assignments are essential in each unit that you feel is important a student needs to accomplish in order to get credit to show mastery? And then couple that with the reassessment policies we already have. And then the other thing we really try to do is have a conversation about grading and equity grading. So our challenge as a group today was, how do we end our last School Improvement Day in a few weeks and put a bow tie on this? In education, we always want to add on to something new. Let's add something new. Like, how do we recap this year and make it application practice for next year? So that's how we ended our meeting today, to talk about how we're going to do that.
That was on that piece you were talking about serving students who may have had some learning renewal needs as a component of their trajectory with their cohorts. Can you talk about the stickiness pieces that you put in place and what will carry forward for those groups of students?
Yeah, so let me just go down the road of these essential assignments, because this has been a real interesting battle, if you will, for us. What we wanted to try to get away from is this inundation of all these assignments that kind of clutter a teacher's grade book, and focus on, isn't there probably one essential assignment per unit that you would say could encompass the instruction for that unit, that if a student did that and mastered that or got a grade in that, wouldn't that speak for their ability? And everything else just builds on that. So we really built into those conversations. Now, a comprehensive high school like us with 200 some faculty with 2,600 students here, some are better than others. And it's been a real knockdown, drag out fight in getting some PLCs to go here. Mm-hmm. Some have really accomplished it. The one group we talked with today, they restructured their grading policies, and they evolved in this, kicking and screaming, and they have right now no failures in world geography. I can tell you several years ago that world geography was one of our most failed class for freshmen. So much to where we were thinking about moving it up to sophomores, because freshmen take a lot of tough classes right out of the gate from middle school here: biology, world geo, algebra, usually a world language, throw in an elective or two there, and that's a big load for a freshman. So how do we make this stuff stick? So what we talked about is, we talked a lot about essential assignments and grading. What we're going to ask them to do in a couple of weeks is pull out their syllabuses and make those corrections in their syllabus now, so that summer doesn't come, we get lost at the pool and friends, and all of a sudden we get back in August and we're like, oh God, I can't remember what we talked about. I'm just going to roll out this syllabus because this is what I know, this works, and I'll address the other stuff later. So actually getting them to take now this philosophy and put it into practice is where we're at. And that, I think, attributes to that stickiness, you will, of now, how do we take this conversation and put it into practice?
I
You
like
mentioned,
that piece. Sorry, I was just going to give him kudos.
yeah,
In your team, I mean, I'm going to attribute it to you because you're with whom we're speaking, but for your team at a continuous improvement level, that self-reflection, while it's timely on their minds, is a great decision. So kudos on that.
Yeah, I think one of the things we do a lot of schools, we talk a lot about things, and then we get so it turns into other things, and then we have analysis paralysis, right? We can't get anything done. And if you can just almost like kind of I'm playing around with this concept of this 90-day school improvement plan instead of, this 2-year or 1 year, how do you chunk out a 2-year school improvement plan into 90 days and get some wins along the way that you can put into practice,
Jason, I'm curious, you mentioned equity earlier. How did you approach this work with your teams, with your PLCs, looking at it through that lens of equity?
We just left the conversation yesterday with this. So I am not right or wrong, just this is my belief that if you have just this conversation about equity, you're going to get some people are going to be like, are you saying I'm not equitable? Are you saying, well, here's what I'm doing? And you start losing people, and then people, for all the wrong reasons, some people start getting real protective. I kind of look at it. Here's my philosophy. As a leader of an organization, I actually think this is more on us than anybody else. I think equity probably happens more than not in classrooms with the focus of the teacher's intention. But what we do as leaders sometimes is we don't have practices in place with an equity lens. And hiring, I want to make sure each department chair brings 3 candidates to meet, and we work together to make that hire. I said, I want to make sure one of those people are of a diverse background. When we look at reading texts, I just saw a movie in our sophomore English class, and it was an old movie from the 80s. And I told the teacher, we've been showing this for years. And I told the teacher, I'm like, everybody is white from a prep school. How is our kids equating with that? But that's the movie we've just been showing for reference. Like, can't there be another movie that connects with that? So I think there's probably things we do as leaders that if we just took an equity lens on it and think about these practices with grading, for instance, I think, are we being equitable to all students? Is our late policies only helping these kids that are teacher pleasers, that are turning in extra credit at the end, and that are doing this stuff, as opposed to helping all kids in some of the backgrounds they come from? So I just think it's really important that we ask those questions and we try to look through those lenses, because we have the power to give permission and to reshape practices that make things more equitable.
I really appreciated how you stated that leaders themselves can have their own continuous improvement. A lot of times, I guess the presumption is that the campus is what needs to continuous improve, but leaders themselves do too. So I want to give you another kudos for that mindset. I love also the notion of the 90-day improvement plan. Smaller bites of that elephant to show quick wins. I really enjoyed hearing your insight today, Jason. And to round out our conversation, we've had a great conversation with Principal Jason Stipp for Waubonsie Valley High School. You can follow him on Twitter at WVHS, capital S, Stipp on Twitter. So pretty please do that for him. But I want to say thanks again to you for your thoughtful insight and introspection.
You're welcome, and thanks for showcasing schools and the work we do. It's just it's such great work here, and truly it never ends, right? Because we have another group coming in, and but it's at the end of the day, it is the most important work I think that can be done in regards to getting our students ready. So thank you all, and I appreciate you having me on again.
Thanks for being with us, Jason, here on the Edmentum, Illinois Presents YouTube channel. Hope you have a great Friday, Jason, and a wonderful weekend.
All right.